What's up, good people? Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. Man, I tell you what, I am physically exhausted today. I'm gonna be honest with you. I am just so drained and tired. I think I actually need to take a nap. I have been going like crazy, it seems like, for the last couple of weeks between getting ready for the CSA show, the work I've got to do in my workshop. I'm behind on that, and doing, of course, other work and stuff that I just can't seem to make a dent on it. We got taxes, of course. I got to get that stuff finished, and ready for the accountant to do that stuff. And it's just like, I just can't seem to have enough hours in the day. And I'm just trying, just can't fit everything I want to do in. I went by my parents' house. My mom had a problem with her washing machine, and about 15 years old, so I picked up another one and I just took it there and got it put in for her, and it's running, and she's checking it out and everything else, and it felt good to do something and get back from my mom and dad. And I was sitting there with my dad, and he said to me, he said, "What are them Cowboys going to do this year?" I said, it's all really going to matter what happens with the draft. I said, because that's where the Dallas Cowboys either sink or swim this year for the most part, because we do have holes on our roster. The Cowboys aren't that team that's going to take big risks on free agents. The Cowboys always sink or swim through the draft. And I want you to think about this, because you think about after the 2015 season where Tony Romo got hurt, it was that draft where we got Zeke, we got Dak, and we got Anthony Brown. We ended up getting a lot of guys that were there that gave us the punch to get over. You know, as we're going into the draft right now, the thing I always say about the draft is, what you hope to do is, you have to get an impact player, that a guy is a day one starter that immediately makes your team better. And we got that in Micah Parsons. Yeah, we definitely got that. What you also need to get, to me, to have a successful draft is, you have to get at least one other starter. An impact player, another starter, and you need to get two role players. And if you can get a special team standout, and I don't care what team you are, if you get that out of the draft, it is a successful draft. And more times than not, when you get that kind of added value and punch, it's usually what will help propel your team into the playoffs. So in 2016, after Tony Romo going down and finding out that you can't just have a collection of really good players, because we had a great offensive line. We actually had, believe it or not, that year, a successful running attack with Darren McFadden, even, who went over 1,000 yards. I believe we were 4th or 5th that year with the running game. But the quarterback play was so atrocious with the team the year before that was a catch no catch away from making it to the NFC Championship game, that dog just didn't hunt. Without Tony Romo, that team won one game. And here it was, that 2016 season, you drafted Dak, the quarterback that ended up replacing Tony Romo. You got Zeke Elliott, who was lights out as a rookie. You got Anthony Brown, who wasn't great his first half of the season, but got better the second half. And we had Malik Collins, I think, was also in that draft. We ended up getting a lot of really good players that were an instant impact for the team. Now, this past year, Micah Parsons, you couldn't ask for a bigger impact from a rookie, to literally have the defensive rookie player of the year, who did things that very few players have ever done. But you also look at that draft and you say OC and Dagazua played a lot of the snaps. He wasn't a full-time starter, but he played a great role. You could look at, say, a guy like Golston that we actually got because we moved back with Micah Parsons, another role player that was there. And you can look and say, we have a collection of some other guys that you look at, between Kevin Joseph and so on. You look at some guys that were having meaningful minutes, and you look for this year to say, okay, those guys are going to step up. If we have a successful draft, and let's say we do get that impactful day one starter. I know what the Cowboys will probably do is they're going to go for the sizzle, which will be a wide receiver. It wouldn't surprise me any if they did. They're not as much as we would like to say, let's go for DJ Metcalf. Cowboys aren't going to bite the bullet on that one again. And I'm afraid that DJ Metcalf, if you're thinking that the Cowboys should trade for him, it's going to be more than just a number one. I'm sorry. There's no way in the world that they settle, that we're talking about Seattle, that Seattle who wanted a number one for Earl Thomas. If you want a number one for Earl Thomas, you're probably going to want two number ones for DK Metcalf. The Cowboys aren't going to do that. But hypothetically, let's say we go into the draft and the Cowboys stay there at 24 and they end up getting the best guard in football, who's a day one plug-in starter that ends up being your next Zach Martin. Let's say that. And for me, the way I look at the draft is like this. By the time 24 comes around, probably the top 3 left tackles will be off the board. I will say probably by the time we get to 24 that the top 2 quarterback prospects will be off the board. I will say probably the top 3 wide receiver prospects, maybe the top 4 will be gone. And the top 4 edge rushers will be done. Maybe a guard gets taken, probably not a center, probably not any safeties before that. So the question is, do you go through and say, we're going to take the top guard or center in the draft? Or do we look at it and say, we're going to take the fourth best offensive tackle? Or are we going to take the 4th best wide receiver? And see, what you need to figure out is, what is going to give you the biggest impact with that day one starter? And for me, I would be going for that guard. We truly have a need because Connor Williams was never the guy that we thought he was going to be. The play between the penalties, between, getting beat, it just was not good. And if you can get a really good guard, you're not in such dire straits at center. 2 good guards will make a average center better. You still got to worry about Tyron Smith. But if you get that guy who's a road grader at guard, to me, that is the most impactful pick that you can add to this roster and this team. Because you could say, we're going to get another wide receiver. Problem is you can have all the wide receivers in the world, but if your quarterback doesn't have the time to let those routes develop, it's not going to matter. You can get that wide receiver, but that wide receiver isn't going to help your running game. That guard is going to help the quarterback have more time to survey the field and wait for routes to get open. That guard, who hopefully is not getting 13 penalties on the season, the most in football, is going to stop you from being in 1st and 20. That guard is going to help open up holes for your running back to be able to get the running game going. And here's what's key. Balance in the NFL. Balance. Having a defense not knowing if you're going to pass the football or run the football makes them have to cover more of the field. And that, my friends, was the problem that happened with the Dallas Cowboys offense. Once Tyron Smith got injured and the Cowboys had to shuffle the offensive line, once Terrence Steele was not that good right tackle that you had and Lyle Collins stepped back some, it exposed the weak underbelly with your center more. The whole offensive line took a major step back. You add to that, of course, Zeke and Tony's injuries. You add to that Amari Cooper not being able to play for a couple of games because of COVID. It was basically, it all ran downhill, but all of that downfall started because the offensive line and Tyron Smith went out. And that is what you have to fix. You do that if you give Dak enough time. To me, James Washington can get you numbers like we got from Amari Cooper last year. People say I'm crazy when I say James Washington could replace that production. It's 865 yards. The production down the stretch wasn't really there. If you get the time for the quarterback, and that's the big if. And hopefully, the Dallas Cowboys, if they can have this good draft, like we hope, where, let's say we do get a starting guard, a really good day one road grader. Let's say we get another wide receiver in the draft, those two picks. And then we supplement it with the standout special teams guy. We end up getting another, big guy on the defensive line, maybe an edge rusher in there, maybe even another linebacker. All of a sudden, the doom and gloom for the Dallas Cowboys, getting that extra from those rookies, it's conceivable that the team isn't as bad as everybody says they are. The fact that the Dallas Cowboys at least have made the playoffs, have been a number one seed without doing the free agency bit, lets you know that what they have been doing for some degree has worked. Has it been good enough to win it all? No. But they are competitive. Gotta say that. They are always competitive. Whew. Let me say I appreciate you guys, because talking to you all has kept my ass awake to get back home. And I can't believe it's already 1:47. I got up. It was up at 6. I went to bed at 2 after getting the pour done that I had to do last night. I was up at 6 doing another pour. And been running ever since. And tomorrow I've got to leave at like 5:30 in the morning. And before I leave, I'm going to have to sand these 3 pieces and get them boxed up so they can hit the road. Yeah. I'm pooped. But I'll be here tonight, 9 o'clock Eastern. Hope you tune in. Peace.